In this video, we will explore and take a deep dive into the dark and twisted world of God Game, where millions of people were forced to fight for survival in the most of brutal battles. With our main character, who was severely handicapped, there lies a dark secret within him. We will see as to how he progressed and evolved through this hell. The story begins. The boy awakens. He opens his eyes, exposing the godly pattern etched into his iris. Confused and disoriented, he lays in an endless expanse of nothing. He questions his whereabouts and his identity, but the confusion and the throbbing pain in his head make it difficult for him to think. His arms are bound in chains, adding to his sense of confinement. As he struggles to his feet, he surveys his surroundings, searching for any clues to his predicament. He walks for what seems like an eternity, but finds nothing but the endless white expanse. Just as he is about to give up hope, a small dot on the horizon catches his attention. He rushes towards it, driven by the need to find something, anything, that can give him answers. When he finally reaches the dot, he is horrified by what he finds.
Oh my God!
A dead woman lies on the ground, her body covered in blood. The sight is so gruesome that it causes him to fall to his knees in shock. He takes a deep breath, trying to steady himself, but as he exhales, he feels a sudden change in his emotions. His eyes begin to glow as the disgust and horror he had felt moments ago is replaced by a sense of detachment. A man approaches him, placing a hand on his shoulder. The man's eyes are a radiant blue and he asks the boy if he had killed the woman. The boy insists that he had not and the man seems to believe him, noting that the boy does not appear capable of the murder while chained. As they explore their surroundings, the boy notices that the man is not bound by chains like he is. Suddenly, a screen appears in the sky and a voice declares that the participants have been identified. Two pieces of paper fall from the sky and they both grab them. The papers have their names and information on them, but they have no context for what it all means. The man, Tenjin Chu, is a 35-year-old father of 3. While the boy, Reiyan Asura, is a 19-year-old searching for his older sister. Just as they are trying to make sense of the papers, the voice announces that weapons will be provided for the participants. A bright light appears in front of the boy's hands, and a long double-edged sword materializes. The man receives 2 short daggers. The voice then informs them that they have 5 minutes to execute their opponent or face death themselves. The voice welcomes them to a god game and the countdown for the first round begins. As the timer ticks down, Tenjin ambushes Reiyan, who barely manages to evade the attack. Reiyan's eyes begin to glow as he sees a trail of light that guides him. Tenjin is relentless, stabbing Reiyan in the leg, but Reiyan counters by slicing Tenjin's stomach open. Both men are wounded, but still determined to survive. As Tenjin comes at Reiyan with a killing blow, Reiyan sees the trail of light once again and enters a state of flow. He evades Tenjin's attack, plunges a dagger into his neck, and strangles him with the chains that had bound his own arms. As Tenjin's body falls to the ground, Reiyan is left standing victorious, but also questioning the morality of what he had just done. Feeling disturbed by the fact that when he killed the man, he felt absolutely no remorse, Reiyan is consumed by a burning desire for answers. He wants to know who's behind this twisted game and vows that they will pay for putting him through this hell. As the timer counts down to 0, a blinding light envelops him, and the voice declares him the victor, Reiyan Asura. In shock and disbelief, Reiyan looks around, trying to make sense of what is happening. Suddenly, a figure appears before him, and Reiyan is surprised to see that this is what God looks like. God asks him how he feels, and Reiyan, the image of the lifeless man he has just killed, has flashed before his eyes. Despite the guilt and horror that he should feel, all he can feel is a rush of excitement, a sense of thrill at having taken another's life. God seems amused by this. He can sense that his mind and heart are not in agreement. He looks up at God, searching for answers, but God is evasive. He tells Reiyan that this is a realm created specifically for this game, and that 2 million souls have been imported into this round. Reiyan screams in anguish, pressing God for answers, but all God will say is that this is his game, the God game, and that the victor will be granted one wish. Reiyan is overwhelmed and struggling to understand. He tries to speak, but is unable to produce a single word. God tells him to not interrupt, stating that the more he progresses in the game, the more he will discover about it and about himself. But for now, all he can do is survive. And with that, God disappears, leaving Reiyan alone to face the next round. Reiyan finds himself teleported into a room, surrounded by others who are also wearing the same clothes. He sees many people, and even a child among them, and realizes that they are all winners from the previous round. He understands that in a game of survival, the strong will kill the weak, and so he musters the courage to appear strong. He walks through the room, approaching a robot that welcomes him and asks if he is ready for the second round. Surprised that the robot has just spoken, Reiyan demands answers, asking where the hell they are. A blonde man interrupts and states that they have already tried asking the same questions Reiyan is asking. He then asks Reiyan for his story, and Reiyan feels intimidated, thinking that they are targeting him. The blonde man introduces himself as Euron, and with just a breath, a light emitted from his mouth. It causes Reiyan to feel an intense discomfort in his chest, as if he were just stabbed. Euron smirks, having not even known Reiyan's name yet. Reiyan looks at him, feeling fury towards Euron for looking down on him, hiding some sort of powerful ability. Their conversation is interrupted by a hooded, masked man. Euron claims that he didn't touch Reiyan, but the hooded man sticks out his hand and summons a sword, causing concern among the other people in the room. Euron claims that he is not looking for trouble and is simply looking for a strong teammate. The masked man, take to Shinjin, claims Reiyan as his teammate, and Euron is dragged away. Reiyan is confused as to why someone would choose him without knowing much about him. Reiyan introduces himself, and Shinjin introduces himself as well. They shake hands and Shinjin expresses that he no longer wants to waste time in the waiting room and invites Reiyan to proceed to the next round. Hesitant, Reiyan suggests that they should at least ask the robot for instructions. The robot responded that the instructions for the next round would be provided when they left the room, and that the room's only purpose was to find a teammate. Convinced, Reiyan had no choice but to proceed. They opened the door and were met with a void, but as they took a step forward, a path appeared. They walked through the door, but as it closed, Euron's voice echoed behind them, saying, "Be seeing you." Reiyan ignored him and caught up to Shinjin. He asked Shinjin why he had chosen him without knowing anything about him. Shinjin explained that he had chosen Reiyan because of his eyes, which he described as like God's eyes. Shinjin was taking a leap of faith in choosing Reiyan as his teammate, and warned him not to become dead weight or he would cut him off. They proceeded through the path and entered a gate, leading them to a new realm. A large platform out of nowhere. The door behind them disappeared and they saw two people, an old man and a woman. Shinjin confidently asked who they were going to beat first. The old man tried to be friendly and asked for their names, but Shinjin was cautious and did not reveal any information about them. He warned the duo not to come any closer. The old man introduced himself as Jiren and the woman as Sarah. Mr. Yora appeared in the sky and greeted them, welcoming them to the second round. He then explained the rules of the game. The team who held a ball for the longest would win and survive, and that they could use any means necessary to claim the ball, including violence. There was a 15-minute timer, and if they lost, they would die. Sarah summoned her weapon and aimed it at them. Reiyan, who had never been taught how to summon his own weapon, realized that he had not been told this information. Yora found the situation intriguing, but if God never answered him, then he thought it was best to leave it as God intended. He then flung the ball into the arena, signaling the start of the game. Round 2 began, and the ball landed straight in Jiren's face, starting off on the heavier team. Just like last time, when he was handcuffed in his fight against Tenjin. Without hesitation, Shinjin rushed towards the old man to beat him. Sarah blocked his attack, angering Shinjin. But while the two of them were fighting, Jiren and Reiyan were left to themselves. Reiyan decided to go for Jiren. He leaped forward, aiming for a punch, but Jiren had already grabbed his cane. He pointed it at Reiyan and, to Reiyan's surprise, his cane was actually a weapon. He tapped the cane, and as Reiyan was in the air, the cane shot out an explosive fire. While Reiyan could have dodged it, he saw a trail of light and decided to follow it instead, even though it meant sacrificing his arm. His arm was burned, and both Yora and Shinjin were surprised by this. Reiyan looked down at Jiren on the ground, considering finishing him off, but he decided not to. He picked up the ball, but Sarah pointed out that it was his eyes, his weapon. It was his power to see the paths to overtake an opponent. Neither God nor Yora had confirmed this, but Reiyan couldn't ignore what he saw. In a split second, the trail disappeared, and while unsuspecting, Shinjin was stabbed from behind. Shinjin fell to the ground as Sarah quickly stopped Reiyan. She pointed out that he should not have hesitated to take a life in this situation. Electricity pumped through her arms as she dashed towards Reiyan for an attack. As she was about to hit him, Reiyan saw it and barely evaded. Caught off guard by Sarah's incredible speed, he tried to get away but his leg was pulled by Jiren, causing him to stumble. Sarah delivered a knee kick to his jaw, launching him into the air. She followed with a back kick, and Reiyan spun in the air, but he was determined to hold on to the ball. He wanted to buy time, but with Sarah's speed, she was already beside him. Sarah puts energy into her right arm and punched Reiyan straight in the chest, launching him far away. Yora seemed impressed as Sarah appeared to be already adept at her power. Reiyan lays on the ground, exhausted and questioning why he had to face this hell of a game. What even was he fighting for, and if it was even worth it? He mustered the strength to stand up. As the duo looked at him, Shinjin, who had been left behind, stood back up, pulling out the spear that had pierced his chest. His eyes started glowing, but the duo didn't notice Shinjin and continued to press Reiyan. Yora questioned their motivation to fight even though they had nothing to lose. and Reiyan answered in his mind that he wanted to find answers and the truth. But he stood and said that Sarah was correct, that the pain could stop. He then jumped backward, falling down the ledge. Before he fell completely into the void, Sarah barely caught him, holding onto his leg. As they pulled Reiyan back up, he asked them why they even wanted to live in the first place. Sarah sneered, telling him she didn't have to explain anything to a runt like him. But Jiren called out to Sarah, apologizing for his mistake. He has let his guard down. It was then that Shinjin, with a murderous gaze, sneakily stabbed Jiren from behind. Sarah was horrified as her teammate fell to the ground, bleeding to death. Shinjin stands tall, his eyes filled with a deadly intent as he faces off against Sarah. The two clash, their bodies colliding with a loud thud as they both drop to the ground. Shinjin drops his weapon and Sarah is quick to take advantage, raining blows down upon him with relentless ferocity. Jiren, lying nearby, is losing a lot of blood quickly, but before he succumbs to his wounds, he reveals to Reiyan the reason for his desire to live. Despite having family who are supposedly searching for him, he feels no attachment to them. The only thing keeping him alive is his fear of death. As he gazes towards the horizon, Jiren takes his last breath. Reiyan watches the scene unfold, feeling a sense of helplessness as he witnesses Jiren's passing. Shinjin, now back in control, manages to push Sarah off of him. The clock ticks down, with only 3 minutes remaining. The game is all but lost for Sarah and her team, but she refuses to give up. She declares that she doesn't want to die, determined to beat both Shinjin and Reiyan in the remaining time. With lightning-fast speed, Sarah seemingly teleports behind Reiyan, thrusting a spear towards him. But Reiyan, who has been carefully observing her movements, realizes that her power is not teleportation, but rather control over the wind. He barely evades the attack and counters with a swift dodge, launching himself to the ground. Sarah is about to deliver the killing blow, but Reiyan manages to block it with the ball he had at hand. The impact is so powerful that it nearly shatters his ribs. Shinjin tries to intervene, launching a series of slashes at Sarah, but her quickness allows her to evade them easily. As the two stand off against each other, Reiyan reveals that he now knows her true power. She controls the wind to propel herself and amplify the force of her weapons. Sarah calls out to Yura, questioning why this is happening and expressing her desire not to die here. Reiyan drops his guard for a moment, but Shinjin quickly reminds them that the game is not over yet. Yura notes that there is only 1 minute left in the game. With this, Sarah wipes away her tears and sets her resolve, a fiery aura surrounding her as she strengthens herself. Yura explains that in life or death scenarios, desperation can bring out incredible strength. With 50 seconds left on the clock, the two players brace themselves for Sarah's next move. But before Reiyan can even react, she is upon him, delivering a punch so powerful that it sends him flying. She then grabs her spear and aims it at Reiyan, ready to deliver the killing blow. But just as she is about to strike, Shinjin intervenes, cutting off her hand and saving Reiyan. Sarah screams in pain as she looks back at Shinjin, shocked that he has revealed his own hidden power now. Shinjin explains that he did not want to reveal his trump card too early. Unlike Sarah, enraged, Sarah charges at Shinjin, determined to kill him. Reiyan watches in amazement as Shinjin creates an enclosure of flames to trap Sarah and delivers a fiery strike to her. The attack knocks her and she falls to the ground, her glasses falling off. She is heavily wounded and losing a lot of blood quickly. As she lays there, she exclaims that she does not want to die, and that she has a little brother to find. Shinjin tells her that he will find her brother as he raises his sword and delivers the final blow. With 5 seconds left on the clock, Yura applauds the victory of Reiyan and Shinjin. Reiyan and Shinjin's wounds start to heal as they walk towards a door that appears. But before they proceed, Reiyan goes to Sarah's body and picks up a paper with her information. Sarah Jones, 18 years old, in search of her younger brother. Shinjin tries to stop him, but Reiyan insisted that he should remember the name of this woman, because he had promised to find her little brother. He also stated that if they run into her little brother later on, they would save him. Reiyan also goes and takes a look at Jiren's paper. Jiren Kuro, 87 years old, 3 kids and a dead wife. He volunteered for the God game. Reiyan is shocked by the last line, questioning why someone would willingly join the game. They finally decide to move on and enter the gate, but they are stopped by Yura, who hands them each a gift. Reiyan looks at the cross necklace in his hand, and in an instant, his surroundings change. He finds himself in a dense, lush forest, with no clue as to what is happening. He tries to make sense of the new environment, and in front of him, he sees a young boy with familiar features. Suddenly, a voice calls out from behind him, shouting his name. Reiyan turns around to see a teenage girl, who also bears a striking resemblance to him. She holds out a cross, claiming it to be the cross of God. The boy and girl speak of the great harvest of the year and the plagues and thunderstorms that have plagued their village. Reiyan realizes that the girl is his sister, and the boy is himself. Young Reiyan expresses a desire for his own cross, but his sister tells him that he must earn it himself. Suddenly, someone calls out for Ikika, the girl's name. They are about to head home, but as Reiyan looks at his family, he is overwhelmed with a sense of attachment and longing. He tries to call out to his sister, but before he can, everything shatters into pieces and he falls to his knees, now understanding the truth about his past life. Both Reiyan and Shinjin have been given a glimpse into their past lives. Reiyan asks Yora what has just happened, and he explains that he has simply given them both a gift, a reason to live. Reiyan has seen a person he has never met before, but it feels like someone incredibly important to him, his sister Ikika. And with that, we will continue in the next episode. It takes a lot of effort for me to make these videos, so please like and share. Don't forget to subscribe and click bell to our channel to stay tuned for the next episode. We'll see you next time.